Oh, yo. Yo, can you guys hear me or what? I forgot the mic. Wow. Okay, cool. Cool. 1 2 1 2. This is a test of the mic. I just want to make sure that it sounds right. I'm gonna do that thing and I'm gonna do it all night. Okay, let's go. Something's happening. My screen is really dark, but yeah, it's like what's going on with this? I think maybe they're doing an update or something. Come on now. Just as I start playing and all of a sudden we get these type of things. Sure it's taking a while to sign in or to continue in offline mode. Nope. Let's wait a little bit longer. No, this is not gonna work though. No. Wow. Come on now, like my internet's okay, right? Sure it's taking a while. Come on, I'm gonna cut this off. Okay, wait a bit longer. I can't even quit it, right? So I'm gonna escape. No escape. Just gonna drop this one then. Right here. Yeah. Okay, so yeah. I don't know. Start it up again. Give it one more go. And else I'm just gonna do a reaction video. Because there's a lot of stuff that's been happening all around the world. And I really feel that I need to share it with y'all. So we can do that instead. But first we're gonna give it another go. You see it's the same, it's really dark. Use Steam functions through the overlay while playing. Nope. That's not gonna work. Oh yeah, there you go. Okay, wow. Yeah, buddy. Maybe. Oh, you see, server problem. So this is not gonna work today. It's okay. Well, then I'm gonna do a reaction video. And yeah, it pisses me off. But what am I supposed to do? You know, like, no need to get emotional over things like this. So we're just gonna cut this off. Come on, let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah, and then I'll see you in the next video.
We've been growing our food for the last 3 years on 2.3 acres. And we've reached about 90% of all the food that we eat all year. We grow maybe 150 different vegetables and fruits.
Wow.
And maybe 60 or 70 of them go like crazy, and those are our staples. We grow our food using permaculture, and essentially permaculture is growing your food within nature, with biodiversity, and we do this because it keeps us healthy and we keep the nature around us healthy.
Sunflower seeds, of course.
The passion to grow our own food comes from the fact that we really like to eat, but we like to eat good food and with different kind of vitamins, different kind of elements for us. So food, it's joy. What I love about the homestead is that we create a kind of paradise. And for me, it's like transforming the sun in something good, and after that you share it with your family and with the community. And I feel more grounded, and I think that my life has a purpose because I do that.
Yeah, I recognize that.
I retired,
beautiful.
But before coming here, I was Vice principal in schools for about 11 years, and before that I was a teacher for many, many years. And one thing I loved to do with my students was gardening with them and showing them how to grow their own food, and doing that since the 90s.
I work 2 days per week in schools, and other days of the week I'm just working on the property because it's a lot of job to produce your food. And before that I was a teacher, and I worked 1 year as a principal of school.
We met while she was a principal, and very quickly we realized that we both had very similar visions. We wanted to do permaculture, we wanted to garden guided by nature, and we wanted to produce all of our food that we eat all year for the whole family.
Carrots, grain, something like this. You can do it by yourself, but it's really nice if you can share it with somebody. So if you have a partner that's in the same like not field, but like let's say state of consciousness, then it's doable. But if you do this and you meet somebody who is not familiar with it, it's going to be hard for her to adapt to the lifestyle because it asks a lot of you, but it also keeps you healthy. You know, laziness is not an option in a situation like this because everything happens because of you. If you are productive and you put in the work, you will get the value back. If you are lazy, undecisive, confused, or whatever, it's not going to work for you because you're not putting in the time, right? This keeps you focused, keeps you grounded. It's a nice way. So if you live a lifestyle like this, you need to live it with a partner that loves the same lifestyle. That's true. You know, and you won't find her in the club.
We were ready to go anywhere. We looked basically everywhere in southern Ontario, south of the Canadian Shield, for a place to do our project. And we nice found this place in 2019. And so we've been here for 3.5 years.
Oh, wow. Took them a lot of work to get it to that point.
Yeah, so when we start, it was a nice green grass lawn and nothing on it, but it was very challenging because the forest was dying. There was a lot of water everywhere. It was like a nightmare.
So the nightmare that Magali refers to is the fact that much of the property was unnaturally underwater. And so by installing a simple, correctly done drainage, we solved the problem. But it's a lot of work, and it was work by hand, work with shovel, work with wheelbarrows and so on. In the meantime, we started right away where in an area where we could garden, where we didn't have to do too much transformation, where we could just lay down some cardboard and put some earth on top.
So at least you get your food ready.
And realized that we were able to produce most of the food that we eat in a year in what we considered a small area, in basically 400 square meters.
Oh, wow.
So we are in the front yard of the property, so we grow main of our food from the sun.
Wat heb jongen? Alles goed? Ja, relax man. Ik ben een beetje aan het opnemen. You can take a seat. Wil je een beetje GTA of wat? Nee. Oké. Moet ik je helpen slepen of wat?
We eat in a year in what we considered a small area, in basically 400 square meters.
But that's efficient though. They're efficient.
So we are in the front yard of the property, so we grow main of our food from the sun garden. You can see it in the back. So
yeah, you see how they set it up? Like the trees in the back, the living and the shade is here. It's like in the top. I don't know if I can put here and here, like, so I'll bet you that the sun is coming through. The sun is coming through here like this, Yeah. There's a lot of mosquitoes inside though. It's like I don't know why because the weather is not so cold. You know, it's not. It's like there's a lot of mosquitoes here. That's an issue. Yeah. So the sun is coming through here for the most of the time. Then you get your best produce. That's pretty cool. So they set it up in a way that they harvest the most on that little space. They're really efficient though. They're really efficient. The paths are nice, so you can get to every plant like to the bottom of the stem. Um, clear everything out, the weeds and stuff. I see a lot of. I think these are pumpkins and things like that. This is cool though.
Are here in the orchard. In the beginning, when we came here, we think that we need more space than that to grow our food for 12 months. But we
That's a common
realized
mistake. Yeah.
that only the sun gardens can give
Oh
us
wow, look
so
at them.
much food. And we have 15 other gardens around the property.
So here's some of the stuff we got today. This is some mint that we're just gonna hang,
Yeah, I have mint too.
hang and
Same.
dry. Use that later. Maybe make
For
some
my
mint jelly
tea
out
and
of it.
stuff like that.
This is some
To cook with.
Malabar spinach, which I'm gonna put in water
I
in a
used
few
to have
minutes. So I'm
spinach,
gonna
but
keep
it
it in here, and some basil,
grows
which I'm also
low,
gonna put
low
in
to the
water. So I'm
ground,
gonna keep all of these in
So
here.
it's
And
difficult
then
to
some big
keep
cucumbers
clean.
that got away from me. Very
Cucumbers.
ripe, so we're gonna
Told
eat
you,
them
that's
quickly.
nice.
Got 3 big ones here. And
zucchini also.
some green cucumbers.
Yellow zucchini.
And we also got a whole bunch of these Caribbean cucumbers, these little
Oh,
ones. They're
delicious.
prickly, but you can eat them raw like this. They're delicious.
Bite-sized.
Whole bunch of
Bell peppers.
peppers, some red ones too. And this corn, we're probably gonna eat it this afternoon. These beets, I'm gonna
Beets.
cut them off the leaves.
Delicious.
The leaves that are nice, we're gonna keep to eat. And the beets I'm gonna wash, wrap them in a damp towel, put them in the fridge. They'll last a month at least in the fridge. If we have too much for a month, then we'll freeze the rest or make pickles out of the rest or something like that.
Yeah, buddy.
These are just gonna go on the counter for now,
Zucchini.
these squash. We've also got a
Oh,
whole bunch
zucchini
of
squash.
elderberry,
Americans say squash.
which I'm going to I'm gonna freeze because I'm not ready to make jam out of it yet. So when I got a whole bunch, like probably 2-3 buckets like this full, that's when I'll make the jam out of it.
Yeah, but you got to be careful with those berries though, because there was something about them you shouldn't eat them raw or something. While when I was young, on our way to school, we used to just pick them and eat them. But I recently saw a video saying that you can't eat them raw or something. I'm still here. I'm still healthy, so but they're delicious. I like them. Uh, uh, very tangy, sweet and tangy. It's nice. Carrots.
Some carrots, which I'm gonna do the same thing as the beets. Wash them, wrap them in a
With carrots, if you have carrots like this, when you clean them up and you cut them, don't throw away the greens. The greens, what I do with the greens or the carrots is I put it in a blender. Put it in a blender with some sea salt and a little bit of coconut water. And then when I cook, I pour it in with the sauce from the beginning. So it really softens up with the sauce and it becomes a part of the sauce, right? And then you still get your vitamins in and the flavor comes through really well. It is delicious though. But a lot of people, they throw it away. Even when you buy it from the store, you clean it, you cut it, you throw it away. Now you can cut it up and eat it as veg.
towel, put them in the fridge. I put the potatoes 1 layer deep in the box, and they can stay in the garage up on the shelves all winter.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll last all year. And yeah, you don't wash them. It's just 1 layer thick. And actually, first they have to dry. They just can't be exposed to sunlight because they'll turn green, and then they won't be any good to eat. If we harvested this much
Yeah,
food every day,
and the potatoes, you have to let them dry out to get a thicker and stronger peel. And when the peel is stronger and a little bit harder, a little bit tougher, insects can come in and it won't rot and fungus won't get a hold of the potato so well, So yeah, I love it.
All through the season, we'd have way too much. Now, and sometimes we do have more than we need. Like, for instance, last fall we had tons of tomatoes, thousands of them, and so we gave a lot of them to the food bank, and we gave also a bunch of tomatoes to some families in need. We like.
And that's why it's also nice, like with technology and stuff, get yourself a dehydrator if you're into things like this. Get yourself a dehydrator, like tomatoes and stuff like that. Dehydrate them and then conserve them in oil, in olive oil, with some garlic or something, you know, like you put a little bit of herbs in it, but make sure that the herbs are dry also, else the moist in the garlic and in the herbs goes into the oil, and that they will form bubbles, liquid bubbles, and those bubbles will go bad because they contain a lot of the vitamins and stuff, you know, of the herbs and the things. So you dry it out enough, then you put it in with the oil, with the dehydrated tomatoes, and then you leave them. You can keep them up for years, but anytime that you cook, it's like they're fresh because all the vitamins and everything are conserved in the dehydrated tomato, and the taste gets amplified, right? Gets amplified. So yeah, you don't need as much as tomato as you would normally use. That way you can still preserve your stuff for months. For months, you know, you can get through the whole winter if you want to. And tomatoes, I love growing tomatoes because tomatoes are easy to grow and easy to eat. You don't need to do anything. I can walk into the garden and see, hey, there's a bunch of new red tomatoes. Pick them, wash them, and eat them straight up, or cut them up, put some salt on them, and eat them. Cut them up, put some salt on them, and put them on bread with some butter. Snack on them, cook with them, make sauces, make juice. Tomatoes are fantastic, though. A lot of vitamin C. Um, yeah, tomato contains more vitamin C than an orange. People don't know things like that, but you need it. And especially me, I love to eat a lot of meat. Yeah. So I need vitamin C. People don't know if you eat a lot of meat and you're not careful, you can get scurvy. Scurvy, it sounds nasty. It is nasty, but it's just the lack of vitamins to work with and transport the protein. Vitamin C bonds with fiber, and any excess vitamin C, you pee it out, right? So you can't ever get too much vitamin C. It bonds with fiber, so your blood takes up a lot more fiber when you combine your food with a lot of vitamin C products, because you get a lot more vitamin C in, and your blood really loves to take up the vitamin C. You know, within your blood, the vitamin C bonds to uh, different types of cholesterol, fats, and things that are not supposed to be in your blood. Gets transported, you pee it out. Vitamin C is fantastic. Tomatoes are fantastic, though. Plus, they're delicious. If you ripen them, the ones that we get, yeah, this is a long one. The ones that you get from the store, they're not fully ripened because they have to be transported, they have to be stored, and then they have to be in the stores for a little while, and then you get them. So they don't taste as how they should. A real ripe tomato, you can smell it from meters away. So when my tomatoes are used to be ripe, you could smell them in the other street. You know, deep red, sweet, not crumbly at all, juicy. My mouth is starting to water. Come on.
To be able to share the harvest, not share it only with nature, but share it with other people.
True. Share it. Definitely. That's one of the most beautiful parts. If you can give somebody something that you've grown from yourself. You just
We
get
don't
proud
really
when
need
you
to
see
buy
them
any
looking at it
vegetables,
like, yo.
but I like milk and cheese and yogurt. We don't have animals, so we still buy that. But anything that can be grown, we grow. And for instance, we're growing our grains, but we haven't completely transitioned over. We do grow some wheat, but the thing we grow a lot of is sorghum. And so what we're experimenting with this year is we're going to start using 50% sorghum and 50% bought flour, let's say, in the bread and cakes that we make. But it's been sort of working up. 2 out of the 4 people in our family don't even eat any meat, and so we want to try and grow our protein. Wow. And so cool. We grow our beans and peas. This year we started growing hemp for the seed. We can make our milk out of that. And also there's protein in grains as well. Yeah. And so we grow wheat, barley.
For the seed, people, YouTube, no demonetizing. He's growing it for the seed. I'm just the messenger.
Oats, sorghum, rice, and we also eat wild foods. So I collect plantain seeds, curly dock seed. Oh, wow. We collect mushrooms as well. We have boletes growing on our property. And now as for vitamins and minerals and so on, we have such a wide variety of plants we grow, and we make sure that we go for all those really deep, rich colors.
Basil. You recognize it right away. Every spring, there's like in the supermarket, they have all the herbs, the fresh herbs and stuff like. In springtime, I usually buy like a small pot of basil, like this, with like 3-4 branches, and then I repot it to a bigger pot, and I'll leave it. And within a month, I'll have like a bush like this big. And from that moment on, I just pick leaves and use them in my cooking, but I'd never cut the whole plant. I never break it up or something. I just pick leaves and let it grow. And at one point, there's so much that I can't use it for myself. So anybody who comes by, they can get some fresh herbs and stuff. That's pretty cool.
Onions. What is really important when you do permaculture, it's how to deal with the abundance. So you need to transform it. So I made a lot of research to know exactly what can I do. So usually we dry food, and we dry food with a machine to dry food very fast, with freezing, with canning, and with fermenting. So all the different ways. Sometimes when it's the huge period of harvest, I can stay in the kitchen maybe 5 hours. The kids help, but sometimes it's so much and you have to transform it. And when I transform it, I note everything. I know what is in the freezer. I can plan what we eat, the meal, etc., etc. And normally after that, in the middle of November, I say, everything is full, everything is organized, and we stay like that until the next April or May. So normally, actually, we have 90% of our food come from the garden, and we go to the supermarket, and sometimes it's $40 per week for a family of 4 in Canadian dollars. So this drawing, it's all the property from the wall to the back here.
Oh, that's a lot.
So I just draw that for people who wants to know exactly what's going on this property.
This is sort of like where the main garden is. It's very much a prairie habitat. And then of course we have the stream here, and then we have woodland, and then this is a wet forest back here.
Wow.
And then of course we have the water all coming through here with ponds and so on. So we have a lot of water on our property, and we keep that water. We use that water.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. If you have the water,
we don't use like anything artificial.
Through
it's
your property,
all just
beautiful.
Planted, and then we put our compost on that, and we try and make the garden a little bit difficult for the animals to get in, using different, like with raspberries and rose bushes and stuff. But we plant extra that the things that the animals like outside, easy access, so that they go there first. I'd like to talk a little bit about how we do our gardening.
So basically he's saying he's working with nature. So he knows that the animals, the wild animals will come. He knows they're going to come because you're producing food, right? And you're making it easy for them. They have to normally forage the whole day to get some food, but now you're just making patches of food for them. So he plants some delicious, some nice things outside of his planting area, so when they come in, they get to reach the berries and all of these things first, start eating from them, and by the time they're full, they're not even gonna go and search any further. So you got to work with nature. You can try to kill everything, but you need them also because yeah, it's like they have their own task within the whole ecosystem. So if we're humans, we can reason, we're smart enough. If you can figure out a way that is beneficial to both, then it's perfect. And some of the bushes that you plant, like the berry bushes and stuff, you don't have to replant them every year. So if you do it correctly, you only have to do it once. So that's cool.
Cabbages we put in as sort of as an afterthought. We didn't put anything else with them. There aren't any companion plants. They're just all alone. And so if you have a good look at them, you'll see that they're very much eaten up by bugs and so on. But I mean, they're still all right, but really they don't look very happy. Now we're going to walk over to some other cabbage.
With beans and
which
stuff.
basically have all the same conditions as those ones, with one important difference. As you can see, these are very pristine. The difference is these cabbages are surrounded by other plants.
Yeah.
This is millet, this is kohlrabi, we have some carrots in behind here, some yarrow, this is a cherry tree.
I used to do
so
beans.
all these plants help each other out. It makes it more difficult for
Under the ground,
the bugs and so on to find them. So this
roots.
is how we garden. We use biodiversity and we mix everything up.
Some plants use more nitrogen than others. Some plants gather nitrogen through the leaves and deposit it in the soil again. So if you find that combination of vegetables that complement each other, you get a bigger harvest. It's like fertilizing your ground, but in a natural way. Some herbs, they repel insects. So yeah, if you have those around and they work in combination with your vegetables, you'll see that you'll have less rot, you will have less eaten plants and stuff like that.
The philosophy of sharing, it's really important. Our goal is to share the knowledge of how you can produce your own food, how you can after that share it, and how you can just reduce the price of the grocery.
Yeah, so we started a YouTube channel, Willow's Green Permaculture. We also have our website, willowsgreenpermaculture.com.
Definitely go check them out.
I like to share this knowledge because I believe that a lot of people think they don't have a green
Get
thumb.
to know more about it.
But I think everybody's capable. I think these skills are inside all of us because, we lived for millennia like this, everybody. And so it's inside all of us.
After this, right away.
When I'm out there, I feel like a 5-year-old kid who is just like surrounded by all their favorite toys. So yes, it's work, but it's fun. I'm basically out there every day. Am I out there to exhaustion every day? Maybe the first year, but it's not necessarily a pace that you can keep forever. And so every year now I'm simplifying things and it's working.
Yeah.
The most stressful things for me in the project was to manage how much energy I can spend each day without having pain in my body. Because I was doing too much. It's depend of the season. In March, you have to clean up the land. So maybe sometimes it will be 6 or 7 hours per day. And after that, early spring, approximately the same thing. So it was a curve of learning. So right now I know exactly what are my limits and when I have to ask for help.
For me, the challenges, at the beginning, sometimes the animals would take a bit more than we hoped. But it was it's the learning curve. And there really is a solution to all the problems that you can have. And the best way is the simplest way. Challenges are opportunities. And then when you've solved them,
Yeah. They're
feels
just
good.
richer in knowledge.
Life is
Look at
full of
this.
wonder,
Nice, though.
and it's living that wonder every day. It's something I always wanted to do, and to see it succeed is just very satisfying, because I'd never done it on this scale, and thinking, wow, we did it.
Beautiful. Good job, good job, good job, good job. Definitely, definitely. So what's next? What's next? Let's find something else. Wait up. We grew potatoes 7 different ways. Here's what happened. Let's see what's going on.
What happens when you take your favorite plant of all time, the humble potato, and plant it in not 1, not 2, but 7 different ways to answer the time-honored question, is there a best way to plant potatoes? To set the stage, we picked 7 different methods of growing potatoes, all of them pretty popular methods. The first one was growing them in a 5-gallon bucket, really classic for container growers. Next, growing in a grow bag where we planted 3 potatoes. Then we went into the in-ground methods, starting with the most classic of them all, planting about 6 to 8 inches deep in a trench, spaced about a foot apart, and we planted 5 potatoes. So that's the most classic method you could pretty much do for potatoes. Then we decided to see what happens if you planted 1 potato 12 inches deep in the ground, under the theory that maybe you'll just get more potatoes. We planted 1 6 inches deep just to see if there's a difference between those two. And then we cut 1 potato in half and planted each half 6 inches deep to see if cutting the potato in half would give you the same amount of potatoes as just planting 1 hole, or maybe more, or maybe less. Then we went.
Potatoes are fantastic to grow. Everybody knows that if you leave potatoes out too long, they get the little shoots, right? A while back when I cleared out my compost hope, because it was there for like 2 years or something, so I needed all the compost from the bottom of the heap for my garden, and but I didn't really get to it. So when I cleared out my garden, I wanted to place the compost, and I saw that there were potato plants growing. So what happened is I had a batch of potatoes, and they had a lot of shoots, and I peeled them, cooked them, ate them, everything okay. But the peels I threw into the compost, and they just kept growing because I threw some more stuff over it, and they just kept growing. So I started digging out my compost heap, and I found loads of potatoes in there. Same with tomatoes. Tomatoes grow almost everywhere. They can grow on sand. They can grow on soil. They can grow in the compost. You know, it's beautiful.
To a method that is tried and true and has been for quite some time, that Jacques used before to great success, called the Ruth Stout method, where you don't bury the potatoes at all. Instead, you drop them right on the surface of enriched soil, and you cover them up with hay, and you simply forget about them. A couple caveats here. Number 1, for each method, we didn't use the exact same variety of potatoes, but when comparing like methods, we did use the same variety. So you'll see that. And then we didn't care for them as well as we possibly could have. Some of them got a little bit flooded due to some rain, and some of them got underwatered when we just simply forgot. But here's what we found after just a few weeks. All right, my friends, it's been about 3 weeks since we planted our 7 different potato grow experiment. And let's just take a look at what we have. I'm pretty excited because we've got growth on our trenched line. This would be your classic potato line. So all those are up. And then we have the 2 halves, I believe, was right here. Those are up, and they're actually looking pretty good, and they're bigger than these. Then we have the one planted very deep. That's coming up. And then we have, I think, the one over there that I planted 6 inches deep. We'll put it up on the screen for you because now my brain is getting jumbled, but those are all up. What I don't see up yet is our Ruth Stout potatoes. So I'm actually going to do something Ruth wouldn't approve of and dig in here. Oh, damage. There's damage. It's still growing though. So this potato has some scratch marks on it. I can't tell if that's from a skunk or maybe a raccoon, but there are some eyes sprouting. There's something coming out. I'm just gonna let it ride. This is an experiment. I can't interfere. I can't tip the scales in any way. But the Ruth Stout potatoes are all very slow, which is a little bit disappointing. And then you've got our container potatoes over here. We've got our grow bag potatoes, which I put 3 in. So 2 of them are up right here, and I'll show you. Now is the perfect time to use this rolling tip. These are our lined grow bags. Keeps the moisture in, but the sunlight, it's a little bit better access if I just roll that down. Now look, if this was up, see these leaves? Watch. Guess what's not getting sun right now? Fun little tip on the grow bags, but only 2 of the 3 are up here, which is a bit interesting. I'm wondering, oh no, there it is.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Got a little guy right there.
Definitely.
And then our 5-gallon bucket.
Potatoes are tough.
I'll show you. I did not drill any holes in this. And so when it rained, I actually had to hold this and turn it upside down and like dump all the water out. As you can see, there's a little bit more in there. Ooh, that's some stinky potato water.
Yeah, that
but
never works.
we actually do have a sprout. I just went 1 per right here. So this is also coming. So right now, 3 weeks into the experiment, every single method isn't dead yet, which is, I think, the best that we can ask for, with Ruth Stout being the slowest and some of these cut in half, buried relatively shallow, being the fastest. So comment down below what you think will win. I'm still out to lunch. I have no idea. I'm guessing maybe these 2 cut in half will do okay, but we'll have to see in maybe another month or so. Been a few weeks and some interesting results so far.
Oh, wow.
The trenched tomatoes, the more classic presentation, they look good. They look very healthy, but they are quite a bit shorter than any of the ones in the middle here. This one being our 6-inch deep planted whole potato. This is our cut in half and planted 6 inches deep, and this is our 12 inches deep. And this one, of course, being deeper, makes sense that it is not as tall. It, in fact, kind of feels a little bit like the height of the trenched ones. Now, surprising to me is that our Ruth Stout potatoes, some of them have yet to fully come up, although there is one over there, and there's one kind of hiding underneath the netting over here. I'm not exactly sure why. I've dug up, they are growing, they're just very slow. I suspect maybe because they're not fully submerged in the ground, perhaps that does not trigger proper growth. We'll have to see. But over here in our containers, both are doing really well, but they're also both slower than any single method except for the Ruth Stout. So let's let them keep growing and see what we find. It's a beautiful sunny day in early May, and the potatoes have really come into their own. So what I'm noticing is our trenched method, beautiful, green, lush. The middle method with split and very depth buried potatoes, it's taller, but there's a little bit more of a frill to the leaf, a little more texture to the leaf. Now, I don't know if I planted the exact same variety, so that could be part of it. And then you get over to the buckets. The buckets are starting to disappoint me. Not in the sense that I would not even recommend the method, because if you don't have space, you're growing it.
The buckets don't get oxygen, I can tell you that one right now. That's why you need the holes. There's too much moist in there, so there's a possibility of rot. With potatoes and any seeds, you have to deprive them of moist a little bit, because it's like in nature in dry times. What happens, there's no moist, so the roots have to grow out to search for moist, right? If there's water all around them, they don't need to grow out. And after a while, you know, the fruit starts to rot, so they have a problem. But when you keep them a little bit dry, that's what I noticed, because in the beginning, when I was younger, I used to water them too much. And then, then they would grow, but they wouldn't really. And then I saw, like in another part of the garden, where I just threw some seeds, or where I put some things that were left over. Because when I make tomatoes, I make seedlings from like, let's say 1 tomato, I get like 200 seedlings or something like that. So then I would plant out the big ones, and then the rest I would just throw in a compost hole, or I just stick them in the ground left and right, you know. And then the parts that I saw that I didn't take care of, and it was a dry summer, they were humongous. They were doing great. And what I've been given water was small, but had really big leaves, was really wide. So when I dug them up after I harvested all the fruits, then you could see that the ones that I put in the bag that were dry, the roots were wider, spread, and deeper. And the ones that I've been giving water, the roots were more at the surface and wider. So because there were less roots on them, they didn't produce as well as the ones in the back. Because the ones in the back that were dry, just before they started to produce fruit, that's where I started to give them water. So I'm like mimicking autumn, you know, fall. So in fall they get more water, they start to produce their fruits, they get more fruits. So the big ones really started to produce nicely. So it's a combination of things. Um, with him in the bucket, he hasn't drilled a hole, so it's constantly wet. So the roots don't have to venture out to find water because they have it at hand. So that one is a problem. The ones in the straw, because the not the whole potato is covered, is moisturized, at time, because the top layer is aerated. There's no moisture there. It's no, you know what I mean? Like, so the roots don't come out. They only come out at the bottom. So that's why you get like half of the growth on everything else. They come up late. They're a little bit weak. They don't come out as strong. You know, the the half a potato that he has dries out on one side. So the plant is forced to produce roots and not live off the potato sack itself. That's why they're bigger than the ones in the trench. The ones in the trench are just natural all the way, so that's just how they grow in that circumstance, depending on how much he waters them or not. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, cool.
In a grow bag, there's no problem whatsoever. But these guys are clearly lagging
really
behind
nice to see the
any
differences.
of the methods in ground. And then the 5-gallon bucket with no drainage holes, this is by far the most stunted. Now,
Yeah.
I think you could make an argument for drilling some drainage holes in the bottom. Maybe that would have improved it. But honestly, even this one is outperforming. Now, the thing that's really surprising to me is that the Ruth Stout potatoes over here, buried in the straw, have finally come up. And they've come up in a bit of a spotty fashion. So you can see this one really just started to come up, and this is our most developed potato. But what I want to show you is something that I honestly didn't think they'd sprout. So I went in to dig them up and look, and I'll show you what we've got going on here. Well, look what you see around here. See these little pill bugs? Well, why are there so many pill bugs in this area? It's because there's a lot of this dead material, this straw. No. And so if you take a look at this potato right here that we dropped in, it has little tendrils coming out that are sprouting out of the eyes, but there's a lot of this pill bug activity that is impeding the growth. It might be eating these little tips and slowing down the Ruth Stout. And so I would say Ruth Stout, it's less effort than some of these methods, but it's not that much less effort. These don't take that much time. So right now I'm actually pretty bearish, let's say. Not really high on the Ruth Stout method, but we'll see. The next time I check in with you guys, it'll be time to harvest and count and, importantly, weigh. The day is fine.
But the till bugs, they are carnivorous, right? So they're not gonna eat the buds, and should they eat small bits of vegetation, it's not gonna be like a big part like that. The problem is, because you don't see it like that, mice. When mice come to and snails, snails are a big problem. But mice, when they encounter a place like this, they prefer to move through the straw because they can smell their way through. But what I noticed that when you see that the plant is like it's cut, like when you have a small plant coming up, and all of a sudden you see it's cut and the plant is laying like this on the floor, on the ground next to it. It's snails. Snails like the young plants, and they just bite through the stem. That part, I don't know why the soft, when it's still soft, they love it. And they don't eat anything else, but they just bite through the stem and leave the plant. It's a real big problem. And with the straw, snails don't have to be big to be able to do that. With the straw, snails like it too. Any type of insect is gonna choose the straw because they're hidden from predators like birds and stuff like that. That's why it's nice to have chickens or ducks. Chickens for any small crawling insects, and ducks for snails. If you have ducks in your garden, you have no snails at all. They love them.
Finally here, my friends. I am sitting in a wasteland of potato debris because I've exercised patience and waited until the potato is fully died back. This is a tip I got from my friend. Potato Ty is a potato farmer up in Canada, grows a huge amount of potatoes every single year on the commercial level. He said the best way to make sure your potatoes are ready to harvest but also ready to store for as long as possible is wait until the top leaves die back and then wait a couple weeks. So that's what I've done. That's why it looks so bad. Let's figure out what we've got going on underneath the soil. Starting off with our 5-gallon bucket. I'm not optimistic about this one because there were not holes drilled in the bottom. We had a couple rains. So let's see what we got. Nice clean tuck here. Problem with this one, oh man, this is gonna be bad. Ooh, this is bad.
You see, no
we
roots,
got
the roots
literally
didn't have to go
3
anywhere.
tiny little potatoes. 4,
have to search for
very bad.
water.
I would call this one a complete fail. Now some of this might be
Look how
grower's error
small.
because like I said, I probably should have drilled some holes in the bottom, but regardless, I did this experiment years ago and I also found 5-gallon buckets weren't super strong for me at that point in time. So onto the grow bag. And these grew a little bit better, I noticed, but I'm still thinking I might have some potato problems here. Let's see what we got going on. Okay, I'm starting to see some. They're not super big, still a touch small, but we didn't have as much of a problem here with overwatering because the grow bags are porous, so they lost water. These aren't big. I'd call these more like a new potato, which is
those are
actually a
perfect
delicacy.
to use as
That's a
seeds.
decent sized one. Okay,
You know?
a handful.
So now,
Not
just
great.
plant them
Now we're on
for
to our
next
Ruth
year.
Stout, which is this
Perfect.
messy, sloppy piece of straw here. And remember, we didn't bury these. We just covered them up with straw, so I shouldn't have to dig them out too much. So it's hard to see, but here are the dead stems of the first one. So I'm gonna try to kind of bunch this up and just lift and see what I've got. And I do have some potatoes here, not bad, but I'm noticing that they're pretty solarized. Like they've been hit by the sun, they're starting to sprout a little bit. That's not great. I noticed also that these were pretty easy for a raccoon or another animal to dig up, and there's a lot of underdeveloped small guys here. So I'm not super pleased, but I am gonna take every single one, even though I would not eat some of these. Okay, I'm starting to see some more here. Wow, there's actually more than I thought. Okay, this is starting to turn out. This is just one potato right here. Overall, I would say not an amazing harvest. Now we're moving on to the middle row, which was a potato planted about 12 inches deep, a potato cut in half, planted 6 inches deep, and a potato planted 6 inches deep. And the idea was, does deeper planting make a difference? Does cutting it in half double the yield? And does planting it normally grow it normally? So we're gonna go pretty deep, coming off about a foot from the core of the plant, which is right there, and giving this a nice shovel. Okay, I'm seeing something I like. So I'm seeing a lot of potatoes. This is on, remember, one potato planted super deep in the soil, never hilled. Never hilled. I am running into some rot issues, which could be a result of how long I've kept them in the ground, but I'm also seeing, I don't know what this is. This is I don't need that near me. So there's the results from one potato planted 12 inches deep, which I am very pleased about. I'll be honest, I was getting a little bit sad and a little bit emotional on the prior harvest. So now we're gonna go into the cut in half one. I'm very excited because who knows, maybe we've multiplied one potato's yield, but it might be hard to beat this guy here.
That's a nice one.
So there's our pile for the split potato. Actually a little bit less yield. Now some of them are a little bit rotted out. That's a grower's error. We probably left them in a touch too long, but it's close enough. Now on to the single potato planted 6 inches deep, which is sort of the most simple way you could plant a single potato plant. Okay, wow, I'm seeing something I really, look at that. This is what I've been hoping to pull up this whole time, guys. What I notice here is, I got to them a little bit earlier. This plant isn't fully died back, and there's a lot more size on the individual potatoes here, which is great to see. So less potatoes on that one, but of a greater size and density. So we'll see if that weighs more.
Nice.
Now we got to get to the one I'm the most optimistic about, which is the classic trenched potato row, starting over here. So we've done the harvest and I have a lot of thoughts, but before I share them, let's do the official count and weigh. It's time, my friends. Let's figure out what we did. And starting off with the one I'm absolutely the most ashamed about, the 5-gallon bucket. It's so bad. It is 5 tiny little potatoes at 0.6 ounces. I can't even believe that I am showing that. That's so pathetic. And so that's 100% on me. I grew those incorrectly. They got a little bit too moist and they stunted out. Definitely. So that's not the most indicative of how well this did, but nevertheless, it's the result I got. I think Eric grew those potatoes, not me, so blame it on him. But we got the grow bag up next. Marginally better, but remember, we did plant 3 potatoes in here. So to have this yield off of 3 potatoes is not great. We have 15 potatoes clocking in at 12.1 ounces, so less than an ounce per potato. Next up, we've got our Ruth Stout potatoes. A little bit better here, but the problem we ran into is just they weren't as covered as they should have been and they were easy to access. by pests. So we got 43 potatoes of various sizes, clocking in at 2 pounds 13 ounces. Next up, we're getting into something a little more exciting. This is the standard single potato planted 6 inches deep, and we have sizable potatoes now, so I'm very happy about that. So this one we got 10 potatoes at 2 pounds 7.8 ounces, definitely our best grow yet. Next up, we have the 12-inch deep single potato, which I'm very excited to learn, because to me, it looked like we had less overall problems with this potato.
Gotta stay hydrated.
And it seems like we got more overall potatoes. So might be something to be said for planting your potatoes a little deeper than is commonly recommended. So on this one, we have 24 potatoes, far and away the most we've gotten off a single potato planting at 3 pounds, 9.2 ounces. Next up, we have the single potato split in half, planted about 12 inches apart, 6 inches deep. So the whole idea here was to see if we could get more potatoes out of one potato. So let's see. We got 21 potatoes at 2 pounds, 15.6 ounces. So slightly less than the one that was planted 12 inches deep, but definitely more than the one that was planted 6 inches deep. But of course, some of these varieties are a little different. So next time we'll have to control for varieties, but still pretty interesting. Now the big kahuna, the trenched potatoes. I'm most excited about this one, not only because we kind of saw how many and how good they looked, but this is the classic recommendation on how to grow potatoes. You might hill it, you might not, but either way, that is the way. So let's see what we've got going on here. On 5 trenched potatoes, we got 72 at 11 pounds even. So the trenched potatoes, when you divide it out into the amount of plants, you have over 10 potatoes per plant, over 2 pounds per plant, which is pretty close to the highest amount of poundage per plant, but not the most, because the most is sitting over here with our single potato planted 12 inches deep. Now this gives me a lot of interesting conclusions. So first off, some disclaimers. Yes, this is a very pathetic potato harvest and we should have grown that better. That's on me, and so is the grow bag one. The problem with a 5-gallon bucket is if you don't have drainage, you rot it out and you stunt the growth. That's what happened, my bad. The problem with a grow bag is that it drains very quickly and you need to be very on top of your watering. So some hybrid of these two approaches, if you're growing in containers, would probably do a lot better, and we will have a video coming out on how to maximize those pretty soon here. But let's talk now about the in-ground plantings. First of all, the 6-inch deep buried single potato versus a cut in half one buried 6 inches deep was an almost, well, it was kind of negligible. You got more potatoes, but they were smaller. This, of course, is a different variety, sizable potatoes. I would say if you don't have a lot of potatoes to go around, cutting them in half, letting them heal a bit and planting them is a good way to stretch your potato planting dollar. So nothing wrong with cutting them and planting them, but here's what I find the most interesting. Our trenched potatoes look amazing. We didn't have as much pest problems on them compared to our Ruth Stout method, which has kind of shriveled potatoes because they were exposed to a little bit too much heat, a little bit too much sun. Raccoons, skunks, etc. could dig them up very easily because they weren't buried. And frankly, they just don't look as good and probably thus don't taste as good. So I would personally pick a trenched method over Ruth Stout. But the nuance here is that the 12-inch deep potato produced the most potatoes. I got about 3 pounds, 9 ounces off of one plant here, and over here in the trench world, I got probably about 2¼ pounds per potato. So I'm starting to think, and this is something I've done in years prior, that a classic potato planting method of trenching your potatoes, maybe doing a little bit of hilling, but burying them deeper than 6 inches will help you get a little bit more yield. Why? Because you have more stem area for little stolons to come out and produce more potatoes, and there's more time for that to actually happen. So if you have a long enough season, my conclusion from this experiment, which of course could be improved, I see you in the comments, I know there's things we could have done better here, is to trench your potatoes, plant them a little bit deeper, don't even bother hilling them because you've planted them deeper to prevent that, and you're in a good spot. This was a fun experiment, guys. If you want to see our full potato playlist, check this video.
I think you did well. I think you did very well. It's really, how do you say? It's well thought out. And of course, there's always a lot of things that you could do differently, but you also have to consider that circumstances allow so much. So, but it's really nice. It's nice to see the differences, and it gives me something to work with my experience. You know, like solve maybe some things that I did in the past, or things that I can improve on. You know, always combine different techniques. That's always a good thing.
Snap, bruh.
Hey, if you're watching this, could you maybe subscribe? It'd really help me out. If not, it's okay. Hope you have a great day.
Thank you.